On behalf of SCR Construction Company, I would like to welcome you to your new hire orientation class. During this new hire orientation class, this course will cover history of SCR Construction Company, workplace safety policies, emergency contacts, safety manual, sexual harassment, right to know, substance abuse policy, employee handbook, and employee benefits. At the end of this presentation, make sure your application package is filled out completely before turning it in. If you have any questions during this presentation, please ask your training supervisor. SCR Construction Company, Incorporated was formed in October 1986. With the purpose of providing high-quality highway and bridge repairs and roadway maintenance to local and state government entities. For over 20 years, SCR has been a leader in this market in Texas and continues to grow using innovation and experience. SCR Construction Company Incorporated was incorporated in 1986 in Sugar Land, Texas, and over the years has grown to serve the entire state. Our crews repair roads and bridges on highways from Beaumont to El Paso, from Harlingen to Dalhart. The corporate office is now in Richmond, Texas, a suburb southwest of Houston, and we also work from a regional office in Fort Worth. These geographically situated offices allow us to maintain a strategic efficiency that allows us to effectively service and supply our crews across the state. SCR has developed a well-earned reputation for innovation in bridge repair, using new and creative technology to implement state-of-the-art techniques. In the future, we will be leveraging our years of experience with our statewide resources to strengthen and grow our company. The quality initiative approach by management and field personnel has built a solid level of comfort between TxDOT and SCR Construction. Safety at SCR Construction Company is not a company goal, it's a requirement. To this end, this policy manual will govern all operations of SCR Construction Company. It is a condition of employment with SCR Construction Company that all employees must follow the safety requirements, rules, instructions and procedures contained in our policy. Safety should never be sacrificed for production. It must be an integral part of quality control, cost reduction and job efficiency. Every supervisor will be held accountable for the safety performance demonstrated by employees under their supervision. Our policy is to accomplish work in the safest possible manner, consistent with good work practices. Management at every level is charged with the task of translating this policy into positive action.
It is therefore the purpose of this stated policy. Number 1. That all employees will comply with all federal, state, and employer safety regulations and policies as they pertain to their work. Number 2. That all employees apply good sense and safe practices all jobs. Number 3. That all employees exercise good judgment in the application of this policy. Number 4. That all employees protect the public from any and all hazards which result from our operations. Number 5. That all supervisors are required to have a copy of the safety manual and HAZCOM manual on the job site at all times. Number 6. That as a requirement of employment that each employee will be in receipt of and will sign for the SCR Construction Company safety policies and procedures.
Safety doesn't happen by accident. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, was formed in 1970 to develop, enforce job safety and health standards. Your employer must implement protections and controls to ensure that your workplace meets OSHA standards. It's your employer's responsibility to provide you with a safe workplace. It is your responsibility to obey all safety rules and regulations. Some basic workplace safety tips. We designed safe work areas. Your safety has been planned for your work areas from the start. Learn how machines work properly before using them. Keep materials staged in proper locations. Know how your position flows from one process to the next. Keep your work process to the next. Keep your work area safe, work efficient and productive at all times. Maintain a clean work area. The most productive work areas are clean, neat and organized. Not only will you remove many hazards from the work area by keeping it clean, but you will also provide a more productive work environment. Get involved in the safety program. There is no one on your staff who knows more about the potential dangers on your job site than you or your coworker. Provide feedback to your supervisors of unsafe practices or potential hazards. Through this training you will learn precisely what is expected of you, by providing and clear, written instructions of our safety program. You will be made aware of safety concerns, an effective safety program with a list of things not to do. You will learn about strained backs from using poor lifting techniques or refusing to use lift assist equipment. Cuts from exposed edges or poorly shielded equipment. Injuries that would have been prevented if the employee were wearing their personal protection equipment. Although it's necessary to plan for major safety concerns, our greatest impact on keeping you safe on the job site will come from eliminating the smallest safety violations that contribute the most frequent injuries. Safety is everyone's concern. We here, at SCR Construction, actively encourage you to bring any type of safety concern to management's attention. Watch and learn how each employee performs their job. Even though we have documented proper procedures for each workstation, different workers may perform even this with undocumented variations. Watch how others perform their jobs to see if they're following procedures, if they're taking shortcuts that could reduce safety, and even to learn if they're performing tasks in an improved manner that should be adopted by other operators. Maintain all machinery in good working order. As your machines age and wear, operators sometimes make modifications of their own to maintain productivity. Please do not do this, ever. It is our responsibility to ensure that you have a routine maintenance program in place so that your machines perform as well as they can and as safely as they can. Follow the maintenance program at all times. Avoid unnecessary hazards. Check your workplace frequently to identify any new equipment or materials that could pose a potential safety hazard. Identify any changes and evaluate them for potential safety concern. Revisit your safety guidelines every year. Nothing stays the same in your workplace. Your staff changes, your machines age or are replaced with new machines, and your location layout may even change. Every change means that your previous safety guidelines may not be sufficient anymore and need to be revisited and modified to reflect your changing environment. Follow proper procedures for reporting near-miss injuries, accidents, injuries and illnesses. Your employer has record-keeping requirements, and if you are exposed to hazardous chemicals, you can have access to staying safe on the job. Accidents often occur because someone was in a hurry or took a shortcut. Keep your focus on your job and your safety. If a task seems too risky, stop and ask questions. Ask questions about how to make the job safe. Ask questions about anything you do not understand or any procedure that is not clear. Don't ignore unsafe habits of others. Speaking to them about it could keep them from being injured. Take safety training seriously. Training gives you the knowledge to keep yourself and others safe. Nearly 6.5 million people work at approximately 252,000 construction sites across the nation on any given day. The fatal injury rate for the construction industry is higher than the national average in this category for all industries. Potential hazards for workers in construction include falls from heights, trench collapse, scaffold collapse, electric shock and arc flash, arc blast, failure to use proper personal protective equipment, and repetitive motion injury. Always call 911 first if the injury or accident warrants an ambulance. If injury or accident does not warrant first aid from medical attendant or doctor, then call your immediate supervisor. If your supervisor is the one injured, then call your supervisor's manager. If you are all alone on the job site and are not able to reach any one of your supervisors, you should always call the Richmond office at 281-344-0700 and ask to speak to the safety manager. If the safety manager is not available, please let the person answering the phone know why you are calling so they can contact the proper authority.
Your safety manual consists of General Company Safety, First Aid Program, Fire Prevention, PPE Program and Assessment, Lifting Techniques, Hand and Power Tool Safety, Scaffold/Ladder Safety, Fall Protection Program, Electrical Safety Awareness, Respiratory Protection, Lockout Tagout, Hazard Communication, HAZCOM, General Waste Management, Confined Space Program, Welding, Cutting, and Hot Work, Heat Illness Prevention, Motor Vehicle Safety, Road Construction Work Zone Safety. What does SCR Construction Company stand for? SCR stands for Safety First.
Your safety manual consists of General Company Safety, First Aid Program, Fire Prevention, PPE Program and Assessment, Lifting Techniques, Hand and Power Tool Safety, Scaffolds and Ladder Safety, Fall Protection Program, Electrical Safety Awareness, Respiratory Protection, Lockout Tagout, Hazard Communication, HAZCOM, General Waste Management, Confined Space Program, Welding, Cutting, and Hot Work, Heat Illness Prevention, Motor Vehicle Safety, and Road Construction Work Zone Safety. What does SCR Construction Company stand for? SCR stands for Safety First. Introduction. Workers in construction, utilities, or public works jobs on both highways or city streets are at risk of fatal or serious debilitating injuries. The work is in congested areas with exposure to high traffic volumes and speeds, as well as under conditions of low lighting, low visibility, and inclement weather. The work is routinely near both moving construction vehicles and passing motor vehicle traffic. What are the focus 4 hazards? Number 1. Electrical hazards. The primary protection against the hazards of working with electricity is to de-energize circuits wherever possible. This work should be performed by trained, qualified personnel who have been provided with the appropriate personal protective equipment. Once the circuit has been de-energized, it should be tested to ensure that no electrical energy remains. Number 2. Struck by hazards. Struck by hazards come in many forms: falling or rolling materials, unsecured loads, flying objects, transporting bridge beams from one location to another on job site. Perhaps one of the most common struck by hazards is working around traffic and heavy equipment. Maintaining high visibility, paying attention to all types of traffic are 2 key ways to minimize these hazards. Number 3. Caught between hazard. Congested work sites, heavy equipment and multiple trades can contribute to caught in between hazards. Number 4. Fall protection. Bridge edges must be protected when working over water. Flotation devices must be worn. Toe boards at edges of platforms, use panels or screens when accessed from below, barricade areas below, use canopies where walkways cross underneath. Proper consideration must be given to fall protection for both demolition of existing structures, and construction of new structures. Height of guardrails has to be maintained, or adjusted, to conform with deck heights as they change during work. Wear lifeline when elevation level warrant. Let's now summarize the focus 4 hazards. The focus 4 hazards are responsible for the majority of physical, financial, and emotional losses in construction, and they exist on nearly every job site. It takes a well-trained crew, the entire crew, and lots of pre-planning to recognize and respond to those hazards. Safety is everyone's responsibility, all of the time. Fatality data. Between year 2003 through year 2006, There were 3,720 total fatalities. 11% electrical deaths. 10% caught between deaths. 34% fall deaths. 26% struck by deaths. And 21% all other construction site related deaths. You can be pinned between equipment and a solid object, such as a wall or another piece of equipment, between materials being stacked or stored and a solid object, such as a wall or another piece of equipment, or between shoring and construction materials in a trench. These types of hazards can result in multiple broken bones, asphyxiation, or death. Make sure all safety equipment is working before starting the work. The seat belt of your equipment must have metal insert and be able to be fastened at all times. Do not operate heavy equipment or motor vehicles without wearing a seat belt. Identify hazards in the work area. Avoid sloped or drop-off areas. When there is a rollover hazard, there must be a seat belt. Always wear the seat belt. Only ride in the seat provided, no riding in buckets, on fenders or on steps. When unloading or loading equipment of any kind, make sure trailer secure and on a level surface. Inspect the deck for debris, blocking or chains. Have a spotter help properly align the equipment up the ramps and be sure equipment is properly secured. Remember, always load and unload equipment on level ground to reduce the risk of rollovers, and keep the area clear. Maintenance hazards. Safety should always be the most important concern during heavy equipment maintenance. Whenever a piece of heavy equipment is being worked on, the power supply should be completely disconnected, and if it is a vehicle, it should be blocked or stabilized so it will not move at any point during the maintenance process. Only heavy equipment maintenance professionals should work on the equipment, unless that person is working under the guidance and supervision or trained professional. Maintenance workers should also have all appropriate certifications and clearances regarding equipment maintenance. Many pieces of heavy equipment feature hydraulic components to articulate moving parts. Part of heavy equipment maintenance is recognizing when such components need servicing and understanding how to complete such servicing. Hydraulic cylinders will feature pressurized fluid, usually some sort of oil, that can leak out if bushings or seals rot, wear, or otherwise crack. It is important to monitor hydraulic arms carefully to spot excess buildup of oil or grease in the piston, signs of wear on the piston shaft, and other signs that may indicate the hydraulic system needs servicing. If such signs of wear are noticeable, it is important to shut down the vehicle and perform heavy equipment maintenance as soon. While administering first aid, the three primary objectives are to maintain an open airway, to save life, prevent further injury, to minimize or prevent infection. You must respond rapidly, stay calm, and think before you act. Do not waste time looking for ready-made materials. Do the best you can, with what is at hand. Request professional medical assistance as soon as possible. Always remember to call for help. Fire prevention on the job site. The purpose of the fire prevention program is to provide and ensure employees have the knowledge to safely operate equipment in case of a fire. What to do in case of fire: evacuate and report. In the event of a fire, one employee will get the nearest fire extinguisher and use it to attempt to put the fire out. All other employees in the immediate area will prepare to evacuate if needed. All other employees on location or in the building need to be advised that a fire is in progress. The employee attempting to extinguish the fire will break the safety seal on the handle and pull the pin. He will then aim his extinguisher at the base of the fire and discharge it with a sweeping motion from side to side, continuing until the fire is out or the extinguisher is emptied. Always remember PASS: P equals pull the pin, A equals aim low, S equals squeeze the lever, S equals sweep from side to side. Remember that a standard fire extinguisher will be emptied in about 10 to 15 seconds. If the fire is not out when the extinguisher has been completely discharged, the employees must evacuate the area. Fire extinguishers used by this SCR construction company are for 4 classes of fires. Class A, fire extinguishers. Used on ordinary combustibles or fibrous material, such as wood, paper, cloth, rubber and some plastics. Travel distance for employees to any extinguisher is 75 feet, 22.9 meters, or less. Class B, fire extinguishers. Use on flammable or combustible liquids such as gasoline, kerosene, paint thinners and propane. Travel distance from the Class B hazard area to any extinguisher is 50 feet, 15.2 meters, or less. Class C, fire extinguishers. Use on energized electrical equipment, such as appliances, switches, panel boxes and power tools. Travel distance from the Class C hazard area to any extinguishing agent is 50 feet, 15.2 meters, or less. Class D, fire extinguishers. Use on combustible metals, such as magnesium, titanium, potassium and sodium. Travel distance from the combustible metal working area to any extinguishing agent is 75 feet, 22.9 meters, or less. Fire extinguishers are to be mounted in easily accessible locations that are indicated by a sign that reads Fire Extinguisher. Fire extinguishers are to be located so that no employee will ever be more than 75 feet from an extinguisher. No equipment, boxes or product may be placed, even temporarily, in the way of a fire extinguisher. Fire prevention on the job site. The purpose of the prevention program is to provide and ensure employees have the knowledge to safely operate protective equipment, including personal protective equipment for eyes, face, head, and extremities, protective clothing, respiratory devices, and protective shields and barriers, shall be provided, used, and maintained in a sanitary and reliable condition wherever it is necessary by reason of hazard, and maintained in a sanitary and reliable condition wherever it is necessary by reason of hazards of processes or environment, chemical hazards, radiological hazards, or mechanical irritants encountered in a manner capable of causing injury or impairment in the function of any part of the body through absorption, inhalation or for physical contact. Employee-owned equipment is not permitted, except for safety toe footwear and prescription safety glasses. SCR Construction is still responsible for the assurance of its adequacy, maintenance and sanitation of those two items. All PPE issued shall be at no cost to the employee. All employees will know and follow the procedures outlined in this program. Eye protection. Employees must use appropriate eye or face protection when exposed to eye or face hazards from flying particles, molten metal, liquid chemicals, acids or caustic liquids or chemical gases or vapors. Eye and face PPE must comply with ANSI Standard Z87.1 2003, Z87+, occupational and educational personal eye and face protective devices. Safety glasses, with side shields, that meet ANSI Z87.1 2003 standards with high impact lenses are required to be worn by all employees, subcontractors, and visitors while on SCR Construction Co. Incorporated property, at all times, as described below, at field locations, in shops and warehouses, except in approved, designated, stripe safety zones. In zones or by everyone when in the vicinity of loading or unloading equipment, performing mechanic or maintenance work, test stand operations, operating equipment such as forklifts, welding, or any type of work which has the potential to inflict an eye injury. In any office, restroom, or any other building while performing any type of work where a potential eye injury may be present. Visitors will be provided with visitor glasses. In the absence of approved prescription safety glasses, over-the-glass type safety glasses or goggles, must be worn over the non-safety glasses until approved prescription safety are obtained. Workers assisting welders must wear absorbent safety glasses that protect the wearer from ultraviolet, UV, and R infrared rays. Dark shaded lens, sunglasses, darker than a number 1 shade is prohibited to be worn indoors unless welding or assisting a welder. A doctor must exceptions for medical reasons in writing to exempt safety eyewear requirements. Safety glasses are not required, inside offices. O parking lots when traveling from vehicles to and from office buildings by way of main doors that do not pass through shops. Goggles. Chemical splash-proof goggles shall be worn when handling or mixing liquid chemicals, solvents, paints, etc., and or as recommended on the material safety data sheet of the material being handled. Dust-proof goggles shall be worn when blowing equipment down with air or while performing other jobs where safety glasses are not adequate to prevent airborne particles from entering the openings around the lenses and side shields. Face shields. Full face shields shall be worn over safety glasses when operating handheld or stationary grinders with abrasive or wire wheels, while chipping paint or concrete or performing jobs where there is the potential for flying objects striking the face, and safety glasses or goggles would not provide adequate protection. Head protection. Employees must wear protective helmets when working in areas where there is a potential for injury to the head from employee-initiated impact or impact from falling or other moving objects. Helmets must comply with ANSI Standard Z89.1 1997 Class E, American National Standard for Industrial Head Protection for Type 2 head protection, or be equally effective. Employees must wear protective helmets when working in areas where there is a potential for injury to the head from falling objects. Hard hats are to be worn at all field, shop and warehouse locations, or where deemed necessary as per each location's PPE hazard assessment. Hard hats will not be altered in any way. Do not paint or apply unauthorized stickers, nameplates, etc. Do not drill, cut, bend, or apply heat. Alter the suspension system. Hard hats will be inspected by the employee regularly for cracks, chips, scratches, signs of heat exposure, sun cracks, etc. Defective hard hats will be replaced immediately. Hard hats shall not be placed in rear windows of vehicles where they will be exposed to the sun or become projectiles during an accident. A supply of hard hats must be made available to visitors. SCR Construction Co., Incorporated shall provide hard hats. Employees will be trained in the use, care and maintenance of head protection equipment. Hearing protection is required to be worn by all employees, subcontractors, and visitors while in posted high noise areas. Refer to the SCR Construction Co., Incorporated Hearing Conservation Program for more information. Warning signs will be posted in areas known or suspected to have noise levels either constantly or intermittently. When signs are not posted, employees shall wear hearing protection when noise caused by machinery, tools, etc., prevents normal conversations to be heard clearly. Rule of thumb: if you have to yell to be heard, hearing protection is required. Hand protection gloves. Gloves are required to be worn when performing work, which may expose the hands to extreme temperatures, cuts and abrasions, or exposure to chemicals. Welding. Welding gloves made of leather or other heat-resistant materials shall be worn when performing arc welding or epoxy, gas cutting. Chemical, impervious, chemical-resistant, gloves shall be worn when handling chemicals that specify gloves as personal protection equipment when handling. Refer to the specific chemicals material safety data sheet for the correct glove type. Persons assigned to working with chemicals, that is, solvent vats, shall be issued their own individual gloves for hygiene purposes. Leather gloves should be worn when working with sharp materials or when handling rigging equipment. Cloth gloves should be worn when handling objects or materials, which could cause blisters, splinters, etc. Heat resistant gloves shall be worn when handling hot bearings, races, or other materials or objects that have been heated beyond ambient temperatures. Insulated gloves shall be worn to prevent frostbite in extreme cold climates. Glove inspection. Gloves shall be inspected before each use for holes, tears, and worn areas. Chemical gloves shall be periodically air tested for pinholes by twisting the cuff tightly, apply low air pressure to expand the glove, and then submersing in water to check for bubbles. Defective gloves shall be discarded immediately. Exception: machinists are exempted from wearing gloves while working with rotating machinery. Foot protection safety footwear shall be worn by all employees with regularly assigned duties at field locations, in shops and warehouses. Office workers and visitors who enter these areas on an infrequent basis will not be required to wear foot protection provided they stay clear of the work being performed. If required to be in the close proximity of the work will be stopped while visiting the area or safety footwear will be worn. Shops, field locations, warehouses and parts departments, leather or equivalent boots, either lace-up or pull-up, shall be worn. The boot must provide ankle protection and have soles designed to protect from punctures with defined heels for climbing ladders. Metatarsal guards will be worn when duties present a hazard of equipment or material crushing the foot. All safety footwear must meet ANSI 41/1999 standards. Client locations may require safety footwear to be worn by everyone. Proper way to manually lift. Avoid bending, arching, stretching and twisting the body when lifting or moving loads. When lifting up a load from low level, bend your knees instead of bending your back. Use your leg muscles instead of your back muscles to lift up the load. Move the load as close to your body as possible before lifting it up. This will minimize the stress on your back. Avoid handling heavy loads above shoulder height. Use a sturdy stool for reaching heights. When storing things on shelves or racks, put heavier loads or frequently used items at waist height. This will minimize the need for bending the back. Allow sufficient space for maneuvering loads to avoid the need for twisting the body. Lay out the work area so that frequently used materials are put in front of the operators to reduce the need for twisting or stretching. Work at an appropriate pace and have a mental note on the approximate weight of the load to be handled. This could avoid sudden or unexpected force acting on the back during lifting. If practicable, make the load lighter by using smaller containers, splitting the loads, etc. Ask for additional helping hands if the load is too heavy to be handled all by you. Mechanical aids should be considered wherever practicable. Arrange your work to avoid prolonged repetitive lifting motions. Break the repetitive pattern by inserting appropriate rest periods or by doing other jobs. Have a coordinated team for team lifting. Arrange the distribution of loads properly among the team members. A team leader should be appointed to give instructions for coordinating the lift. Lifting and carrying are power jobs. When you lift and carry the wrong way, you can damage your back. Back injuries are the most common type of injury in the workplace, causing approximately 900,000 disabling injuries in 2005. Over half of these injuries are from lifting. Back injuries may be difficult to treat and may have lengthy and expensive rehabilitation times. Whether you are lifting at home or at work, make an effort to take care of your back. Client locations may require safety footwear to be worn by everyone. Check with the local supervisor for client requirements before visit. General tool safety rules: maintain regularly, use the right tool for the job, inspect before use, operate according to the manufacturer's instructions, use the proper personal protective equipment, use the guards. Do not use any tool of any of the following hazardous conditions and unsafe acts exist. Broken and defective tools, missing guards, exposed belts and blades, bad electrical cords, misuse of tools, mushroomed heads, cracked and split handles. Potential outcomes from using power or hand tools: bruises, sprains and strains, struck by projectiles, lacerations and amputations, entanglement, eye and face injuries due to flying objects, shocks and electrocutions. Do not use a tool with a loose or damaged handle. Do not use handles that are rough, cracked, broken, splintered, sharp-edged or loosely attached to head. Do not use any hammerhead with dents, cracks, chips, mushrooming, or excessive wear. Select the right tool for the job. Substitutes increase the chance of having an accident. Inspect tools for defects before use. Replace or repair defective tools. Replace cracked, splintered, or broken handles on files, hammers, screwdrivers, or sledges. Maintain tools carefully. Keep them clean and dry, and store them properly after each use. Inspect cords for defects. Check the power cord for cracking, fraying, and other signs of wear or faults in the cord insulation. Check for damaged switches and ones with faulty trigger locks. Inspect the plug for cracks and for missing, loose or faulty prongs. Wear safety glasses or goggles and well-fitting gloves appropriate for the hazards to which you may be exposed to when doing various tasks. Use the proper hose and fittings of the correct diameter. Use hoses specifically designed to resist abrasion, cutting, crushing and failure from continuous flexing. Choose air supply hoses that have a minimum working pressure rating of 1035 kPa, 150 psig, or 150% maximum pressure produced in the system, whichever is higher. Check hoses regularly for cuts, bulges and abrasions. Tag and replace, if defective. Blow out the air line before connecting a tool. Hold hose firmly and blow away from yourself and others. Make sure that hose connections fit properly are equipped with a mechanical means of securing the connection, for example, chain, wire, or positive locking device. Install quick disconnects of a pressure release type rather than a disengagement type. Attach the male end of the connector to the tool, not the hose. Do not operate the two-ladder pressure above the manufacturer's rating. Turn off the air pressure to hose when not in use or when changing power tools. Do not carry a pneumatic tool by its hose. Avoid creating trip hazards caused by hoses laid across walkways or curled underfoot. Do not use compressed air to blow debris or to clean dirt from clothes. All tools for effective grounding with a continuity tester or a ground fault circuit interrupter, GFCI, before use. Check electric tools to ensure that a tool with a 3-prong plug has an approved 3-wire cord and is grounded. The 3-prong plug should be plugged in a properly grounded 3-pole outlet. If an adapter must be used to accommodate a 2-hole receptacle, the adapter wire must be attached to a known, functioning ground. Never remove the ladder or scaffolds. Many of the basic safety rules that apply to most tools also apply to the safe use of a ladder. If you feel tired or dizzy, or are prone to losing your balance, stay off the ladder. Do not use ladders in high winds or storms. Wear clean slip-resistant shoes, and slip-resistant shoes. Shoes with leather soles are not appropriate for ladder use since they are not considered sufficiently slip-resistant. Before using a ladder, inspect it to confirm it is in good working condition. Ladders with loose or missing parts must be rejected. Rickety ladders that sway or lean to the side must be rejected. The ladder you select must be the right size for the job. The duty rating of the ladder must be greater than the total weight of the climber, tools, supplies, and other objects placed upon the ladder. The length of the ladder must be sufficient so that the climber does not have to stand on the top rung or step. When the ladder is set up for use, it must be placed on firm level ground and without any type of slippery condition present at either the base or top support points. Only one person at a time is permitted on a ladder unless the ladder is specifically designed for more than one climber, such as a trestle ladder. Ladders must not be placed in front of closed doors that can open toward the ladder. The door must be blocked open, locked, or guarded. Read the safety information labels on the ladder. The on-product safety information is specific to the particular type of ladder on which it appears. The climber is not considered qualified or adequately trained to use the ladder until familiar with this information. Never jump or slide down from a ladder or climb more than one rung, step at a time. The 3-point of contact climb. When climbing a ladder, it is safest to utilize 3 points of contact because it minimizes the chances of slipping and falling from the ladder. At all ascent or descent, the climber must face the ladder and have 2 hands and 1 foot, or 2 feet and 1 hand in contact with the ladder cleats and or side rails. In this way, the climber is not likely to become unstable in the event one limb slips during the climb. It is important to note that the climber must not carry any objects in either hand that can interfere with a firm grip on the ladder. Otherwise, 3 points of contact with the ladder cannot be adequately maintained and the chance of falling is increased in the event a hand or foot slip occurs. Factors contributing to falls from ladders include haste, sudden movement, lack of attention of the ladder, worn or damaged, the user's age or physical condition, or both, and the user's footwear. Although the user's weight or size typically does not increase the likelihood of a fall, improper climbing posture creates user clumsiness and may cause falls. Reduce your chances of falling during the climb by wearing slip-resistant shoes with heels and heavy soles to prevent foot fatigue, cleaning the soles to maximize traction, using toe lines, a tool belt or an assistant to convey materials so that the climber's hands are free when climbing, climbing slowly and deliberately while avoiding sudden movements, keeping the center of your belt buckle, stomach, between the ladder side rails, or within the width of the cleats, when climbing and while working. Do not overreach or lean while working so that falls are a leading cause of injury and death in the workplace. Here are some tips to help keep you safe. Identify all potential tripping and fall hazards before work starts. Look for fall hazards such as unprotected floor openings or edges, shafts, skylights, stairwells, and roof openings or edges. Inspect fall protection equipment for defects before use. Select, wear, and use fall protection equipment appropriate for the task. Secure and stabilize all ladders before climbing them. Never stand on the top rung, step of a ladder. Use handrails when you go up or down stairs. Practice good housekeeping. Keep cords, welding leads and air hoses out of walkways or adjacent work areas. Hidden dangers of electricity and electrical components. There are some projects that are much more dangerous to work on, like electrical meters, disconnects and panels. If you are not comfortable working with electrical circuits or are just unsure of your electrical knowledge, some of these tougher projects should be left to the professionals. After all, they are specifically trained to work with household voltages, not to mention commercial and industrial application voltages. Appropriate safety gear. To avoid serious injury due to working with electricity, electrical devices, tools, boxes, panels and equipment, always wear the appropriate safety gear. These include safety glasses, rubber-soled shoes, gloves, and dust masks. Here are 7 quick safety tips to consider when you are tackling an electrical project. The first step to electrical safety is turning off the power. First, always turn off the power to the circuit that you'll be working on at the main service panel or disconnect feeding the circuit that you are going to be working on. Remember, no power to the circuit means that you are safe to proceed to work on that circuit or device connected to it. But, how do I know the circuit is off for sure? Electrical testers and testing. That brings me to my next step, testing. You should always test devices, panels, etc. before touching anything to make sure it is off. An on-contact voltage tester can detect if the circuit is on before you ever take a switch or outlet out of the box and expose any wires. Simply take off the cover and hold it next to the device. Some of these testers require you to hold a button down to work, so test the tester on something you know is working before performing this test, like a lamp cord. Safety when turning on circuit breakers. And speaking of safety, let us not forget a great tip about turning on and off breakers in an electrical panel. Always stand to the side of the panel and turn your head when you turn on the circuit breaker in the event that something blows up or flashes sparks. Protect your hands around electricity. Hand protection is the next safety method. Gloves can protect the hands from sharp edges of cables, boxes, panels, and tools. Gloves also protect your hands from cold weather, water, and extreme conditions. Rubber gloves and high-voltage gloves can protect you from electrical shock. Safety glasses for electrical safety. Safety glasses protect your eyes from dust and debris when sawing and drilling. This is especially true when working overhead. They can also protect your eyes from. This safety session should teach you to understand when to use the different types of respirators, and to understand how to fit, inspect, and maintain respirators. According to OSHA regulations, 29 CFR 1910.132 Section 134 you should wear respiratory protection when the air that's contaminated or lacks oxygen can be very harmful to health. Inhaling chemical vapors, gases, or fumes and dust can irritate and even seriously damage the lungs, respiratory system, or other organs, sometimes fatally. Low oxygen can cause death in minutes. OSHA requires employers to identify and protect against breathing hazards. Engineering controls are the preferred form of protection, for example, ventilation, using less toxic materials, and enclosing operations that create air contaminants. When air measurements reveal that engineering controls haven't brought air hazards to safe levels, employers must provide employees with respirators. Wear the respirator designed to protect against your specific job hazards. Check job procedures and/or chemical material safety data sheets. Air purifying or filtering respirators screen out or wash contaminants, but don't supply oxygen. A canister, cartridge, or filter color code shows what chemical this type of respirator protects against. Disposable surgical type masks can be used only for very minimal dust hazards. Air supplying respirators supply oxygen when the air contains 19.5% oxygen or less, and in situations termed immediately dangerous to life or health. Self-contained breathing apparatuses have tanks that hold limited amounts of air and signal when air is low. Full-face mask respirators connect with tanks or compressors that provide an unlimited supply of air. The connecting hoses, however, can get in the way. Get a good respirator fit that will seal out contaminants. OSHA requires employees to have fit tests to ensure a good seal. A respirator should be secure, but not too tight, around the chin, not slip, not pinch the nose, allow you to move your head and talk. 5. Not everyone can wear a respirator. You may not be able to get a good fit or use a respirator safely if you wear eyeglasses. OSHA says contact lenses can be worn with any type of respirator, but their use is not recommended in dusty atmospheres while wearing a half-mask face piece. Have a beard or sideburns, wear a skull cap, or missing dentures, have breathing problems or a heart condition, are heat sensitive or claustrophobic, fear of confined spaces. Inspect respirators to be sure they retain protective ability. Inspect respirators before and after each use, and report connections that aren't tight, holes, cracks, tears, or other damage, wear or deterioration, especially in rubber parts like the facepiece seal and connecting tube. Dents or corrosion in filters, cartridges, or canisters, less than a full charge in an air or oxygen canister. Maintain and store respirators properly. Respirators without contaminating your skin or clean areas. Follow decontamination, cleaning, and disinfecting procedures. Store the respirator so it's protected from dust, sunlight, heat, extreme cold, excessive moisture, and damaging chemicals. Respirators stored in lockers or toolboxes must be in carrying cases or cartons. Rest the respirator's rubber and plastic parts in their normal position for storage. Don't squish. Doing so will deform and impair the seal. Wear a properly fitted respirator to protect. What is hazardous energy? Lockout/tagout energy sources including electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, thermal or other sources in machines and equipment can be hazardous to workers. During the servicing and maintenance of machines and equipment, the unexpected startup or release of stored energy could cause injury to employees. What are the harmful effects of hazardous energy? Workers servicing or maintaining machines or equipment may be seriously injured or killed if hazardous energy is not properly controlled. Injuries resulting from the failure to control hazardous energy during maintenance activities can be serious or fatal. Injuries may include electrocution, burns, crushing, cutting, lacerating, amputating, or fracturing body parts, and others. A steam valve is automatically turned on burning workers who are repairing a downstream connection in the piping. Jammed conveyor system suddenly releases, crushing a worker who is trying to clear the jam. Internal wiring on a piece of factory equipment electrically shorts, shocking employee who is repairing the equipment. Craft workers, electricians, machine operators, and laborers are among the 3 million workers who serve equipment routinely and face the greatest risk of injury. Workers injured on the job from exposure to hazardous energy lose an average of 24 workdays for recuperation. What can be done to control hazardous energy? Failure to control hazardous energy accounts for nearly 10% of the serious accidents in many industries. Proper lockout-tagout practices and procedures safeguard workers from the release of hazardous energy. OSHA's lockout-tagout fact sheet describes the practices and procedures necessary to disable machinery or equipment to prevent the release of hazardous energy. The OSHA standard for the control of hazardous energy, lockout-tagout, 29 CFR 1910.147, for general industry outlines measures for controlling different types of hazardous energy. The LOTO standard establishes the employer's responsibility to protect workers from hazardous energy. Employers are also required to worker to ensure that they know, understand, and are able to follow the applicable provisions of the hazardous energy control procedures. Proper lockout-tagout practices and procedures safeguard workers from the release of hazardous energy. The OSHA standard for the control of hazardous energy, lockout-tagout, 29 CFR 1910.147, for general industry, outlines specific action and procedures for addressing and controlling hazardous energy during servicing and maintenance of machines and equipment. Employers are also required to train each worker to ensure that they know, understand, and are able to follow the applicable provisions of the hazardous energy control procedures. Workers must be trained in the purpose and function of the Energy Control Program and have the knowledge and skills required for the safe application, usage and removal of the energy control devices. All employees who work in the area where the energy control procedures are utilized need to be instructed in the purpose and use of the energy control procedures and about the prohibition against attempting to restart or re-energize machines or equipment that is locked or tagged out. All employees who are authorized to lock out machines or equipment and perform the service and maintenance operation need to be trained in recognition of applicable hazardous energy sources in the workplace, the type and magnitude of energy found in the workplace, and the means and methods of isolating and or controlling the energy. Specific procedures and limitations relating to tagout systems where they are allowed. Retraining of all employees to maintain proficiency or introduce new or changed control methods. OSHA's lockout-tagout fact sheet, 208 KB PDF, 2 pages, describes the practices and procedures necessary to disable machinery or equipment to prevent the release of hazardous energy. Do not remove any hazard communication. Chemical exposure may cause or contribute to many serious health effects such as heart ailments, central nervous system, kidney and lung damage, sterility, cancer, burns, and rashes. Some chemicals may also be safety hazards and have the potential to cause fires and explosions and other serious accidents. Because of the seriousness of these safety and health problems, and because many employers and employees know little or nothing about them, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, issued the Hazard Communication Standard. The basic goal of the standard is to be sure employers know about work hazards and how to protect themselves. This should help reduce the incidence of chemical source illness and injuries. Employers have responsibilities and workers have rights under the OSH Act. The Occupational Safety and Health Act requires that employers provide a safe and healthful workplace free of recognized hazards and follow OSHA standards. Employers must also provide training and required protective equipment. Workers must follow the employer's safety and health rules that comply with OSHA standards and wear or use all required gear and equipment. Workers are encouraged to report hazardous conditions to a supervisor and report hazardous conditions to OSHA if employers do not fix them. If you come into contact with any hazard chemical while on the job site, be sure to read the SDS sheet and learn proper usage, storage and disposal. If a spill should occur, please call 911. Do not try to clean up the. What you should know about general waste management. This procedure applies to all SCR construction employees. When work is performed on a non-owned or operated site, the operator's program shall take precedence. However, this document covers SCR construction employees and contractors and shall be used on owned premises, or when an operator's program doesn't exist or is less stringent. Each work site will estimate the waste, trash and/or scrap that will be generated and taken into consideration prior to work being performed, so the need for containers and waste removal, if necessary, can be determined. Each site will utilize the following for planning of dumpster scheduling and total non-hazardous dry waste material. These figures do not include neither recycling nor waste minimization efforts and reflect no use of an incinerator. Waste segregation: do not mix waste streams, only place designated container, satellite accumulation area, recyclable accumulation area, universal waste accumulation area, or designated dumpster. Recycling: waste should be recycled whenever practicable. SCR construction will encourage proper segregation of waste materials to ensure opportunities for reuse or recycling occurs at each work site. The collection of recycled material will reduce the total load on the environment. Bins of sufficient size must be lined with a plastic bag and clearly labeled for use. Posters from SCR construction will be posted throughout the work site to encourage recycling. Collection bins will also be placed in administrative areas. Will follow the following color guiding: blue, paper; green, aluminum cans; yellow, plastic. Cardboard will be flattened, staples and excess shipping tape removed. No cardboard shall be placed in the dumpster used for the landfill. Waste hand matrix: each work site will develop a waste handling matrix that will address safe practices related to the immediate storage and handling of waste, scrap or leftover material. The handling, organization and storage of waste and scrap materials to minimize potential impact to the environment. Waste material properly stored and handled to minimize the potential for a spill or impact to the environment. During outdoor activities, receptacles must be covered to prevent dispersion of waste materials and to control the potential for runoff. Storage requirements: SCR construction will ensure project-related wastes are stored and maintained in an organized fashion to encourage proper disposal and minimize risks to employees. Proper waste receptacles must be provided for trash and materials that may be reused or recycled during a project. Employee must use assigned receptacles correctly. For each site waste management plan, SCR will determine a PPE matrix that includes gloves, hand protection, eye and face protection and/or confined space. A space that is large enough and so configured that an employee can bodily enter and perform assigned work, has limited or restricted means for entry or exit, for example, tanks, vessels, coolers, storage bins, hoppers, vaults, and pits are spaces that may have limited means of entry, and is not designed for continuous occupancy. Serious injury or death in a confined space can be the result of asphyxiation, engulfment, electric shock, falls and heat stress. Acceptable entry conditions: the conditions that must exist in a confined space to allow entry and to ensure that employees involved with a confined space entry can safely enter into and work within the space. Attendant: an individual stationed outside one or more confined spaces who monitors the authorized entrance and who performs all attendance duties assigned in the SCR construction confined spaces program. Attendants must have sufficiently completed and fully understands the confined space training and is approved by the HSE manager to work in a confined space as an attendant. Authorized entrant: an individual who is authorized by SCR construction to enter a confined space. Entrants must have sufficiently completed and fully understands the confined space training and is approved by the HSE manager to work in a confined space as an authorized entrant. Blanking or blinding: the absolute closure of a pipe, line, or duct by the fastening of a solid plate, such as a spectacle blind or a skillet blind, that completely covers the bore and that is capable of withstanding the maximum pressure of the pipe, line, or duct with no leakage beyond the plate. If in welding, cutting and hot work safety. This program is applicable to all employees directly involved or assisting in the welding, cutting and hot work operations. When work is performed on an owned or operated site, the operator's program shall take precedence. However, this document covers SCR employees and contractors and shall be used on owned premises, or when an operator's program doesn't exist or is less stringent. Operators of equipment should report any equipment defect or safety hazards and discontinue use of equipment until its safety has been assured. Repairs shall be made only by qualified personnel. If fire hazards cannot be taken to a safe place or guards cannot be used to confine heat, sparks, slag and protect the immovable fire hazards, the welding and cutting shall not be performed. Before you weld you must do the following first: do not perform hot work where vapors or combustible materials exist. Make suitable fire extinguishing equipment immediately available. Wear appropriate PPE, such as face shield, leather welder's vest, and gauntlet gloves. Make sure to wear cotton or denim clothing. Wear a UV shielding for arc welders. Inspect welding and cutting equipment before use. A hot work permit must be completed before performing hot work. Precautions that are to be taken shall be in the form of a written permit. Before cutting or welding is permitted, the area shall be inspected and a written permit shall be used to authorize welding and cutting options. Where practicable, all combustibles shall be relocated at least 35 feet from the work site. Where relocation is impractical, combustibles shall be protected with flame-proof covers, shielded with metal guards, curtains, or wet down the material to help prevent ignition of material. Ducts, conveyor systems, and augers that might carry sparks to distant combustibles shall be protected or shut down. Where cutting or welding is done near walls, partitions, ceilings, or openings in the floor, grating, manholes, etc., fire-resistant shields or guards shall be provided to prevent ignition. If welding is to be done on a metal wall, partition, ceiling, or solid decking, flooring, precautions shall be taken to prevent ignition of combustibles on the other side, due to conduction or radiation of heat. Where combustibles cannot be relocated on the opposite side of the work, a fire watch person shall be provided on the opposite side of the work. Welding shall not be attempted on a metal partition, wall, and ceiling or decking, flooring constructed of combustible sandwich panels. Cutting or welding on pipes or other metal in contact with combustible walls, partitions, floors, ceilings, or roofs shall not be undertaken if the work is close in. Heat illness prevention. Working in the Texas heat can be a job all by itself. We at SCR Construction take extra special precautions to make sure our employees have plenty of cool down and hydration breaks. Today we are going to talk about how heat can affect you and what symptoms you should watch out for. Heat exhaustion can often affect you before you even realize it, so it's important to be very aware of the signs. Just like we can't let a car engine overheat or it shuts down, we don't want your body to get too hot. Let's start by talking about heat. Where does the heat come from that causes our bodies to overheat? Working outdoors, especially in hot and humid weather, being in the sun, and doing hard physical work is something we have to take seriously. Let's start by talking about heat. Where does the heat come from that causes our bodies to overheat? Hot weather, humid weather. You absorb more heat if you are in the sun. Heat our bodies generate when we are physically active and doing hard work. What are some of the signs you may notice if your body is getting too hot? Headache, dizziness, or fainting, weakness and wet skin, irritability or confusion, thirst, nausea, or vomiting. Working outdoors is hard work and you will feel sweaty and tired. Workers need to drink water, take shade breaks, and rest to prevent heat problems. Then, if you feel better, you can go back to work. Point to be, but you should still drink water frequently and take another break when you need to. If you don't feel better, talk to your supervisor right away. It is recommended that each person drink water often. It's better to drink small amounts frequently, as opposed to larger amounts less often. Drink even if you don't feel thirsty. Avoid drinks like sodas or coffee that have caffeine, or alcoholic drinks. These drinks dehydrate you and can make it more dangerous to work in the heat. Also avoid sports drinks as these contain too much sugar. People worry that if they drink a lot of water, they'll have to go to the bathroom more often. In fact, you'll mostly sweat it off. When you're not at work, Still drink plenty of water to help your body recover from the workday. During a heat wave, it is recommended to provide more frequent breaks. If you feel any of the symptoms, notify. This part of the presentation covers road and bridge construction safety. We will discuss the following: road construction hazards, roadway worker fatalities, traffic control measures, construction vehicle blind spots, how to protect roadway workers, bridge construction safety, and resources to help you along the way as an employee of SCR Construction Company, Incorporated breaks. If you feel any of the symptoms, notify your supervisor. Work zone traffic safety. Begin every job with a safety plan, even if you are not the engineer. No matter what your status or position is, you should always come to work knowing what your safety strategy is for that day. The following are points to consider in your plan: warning signs and road barriers, flaggers, safety garments, warning horns, training, driver behavior. You should learn all the above so you can work safe and help keep co-workers safe. As bridge and road construction workers, you always think for others and their actions. It is the best practice when it comes to staying safe to always be one thought ahead other people. Safety within the work zone. We will talk about what a traffic control plan is and how they work. In the temporary traffic control zone, construction vehicles and equipment moving inside create a risk to workers on foot, requiring additional protection planning and policies to minimize backing up maneuvers in the activity area. The temporary traffic control activity area is the section of the highway where the work activity takes place. It is comprised of the workspace, the traffic space, and the buffer space. The workspace is that portion of the road closed and set aside for equipment, workers, and material. Workspaces are usually delineated apart from the traffic space, to exclude vehicles and pedestrians, by channelizing devices or temporary barriers and signs. When you start work near a road, evaluate the work site for hazards. Look for blind corners, how heavy the traffic is, and fast it flows. Note the weather, temperature, and visibility and how they will affect the work that you are doing and how motorists will respond. Plan and draw out a diagram of your work site layout, including the staging area, buffer area, transition area, and work area. Determine, based on the road type and the typical vehicle speeds, how many advanced warning signs you will need and how long the buffer area and tapers need to be. Use at least one warning sign before the road work area begins to inform motorists that they are approaching an area where workers may be in the road. You may need more signs depending on sight distance along the road. Use a tapered line of cones to establish and separate the work area and redirect traffic away from workers. Use clean, unbroken, and highly visible safety cones to outline traffic lanes. Inspect all signs, signals, and lights to make sure they are working properly. Notify law enforcement if you are going to be controlling traffic and request an enforcement zone if necessary. You can also notify and request the presence of the local Department of Transportation. Keep an emergency vehicle, lights, flares, air horns, and signs available on the work site in case there is an accident or other emergency. Inspect all of your tools, equipment, and signage to ensure that they function properly. Ensure that all mobile equipment has a backup warning device or use spotters with radios when moving equipment. Road workers should be visible to all other workers in the area and to the motorists passing by. Wear warning garments such as vests, jackets, shirts or pants in orange, strong yellow-green, or fluorescent colors. In rainy weather, wear orange, strong yellow-green, or yellow rainwear. During hours of darkness, your warning garments should be retroreflective, meaning that light shined on the clothing from a headlight or a work light will reflect back toward the driver or user to increase visibility. The retroreflective material should be visible from at least 1,000 feet. Your clothing should have at least one horizontal stripe of retroreflective material around the torso. White clothing with further risk as road workers. Workers in the roadway are at risk of injury from a variety of general traffic vehicles entering the work zone, like drunk drivers, sleepy or impaired drivers, impatient, reckless drivers, drivers using cell phones, other inattentive drivers, law enforcement and emergency vehicles, disabled vehicles pulling in and parking, lost drivers looking for directions. In the photo on this slide, the attenuator truck was rear-ended at 63 miles per hour by an inattentive driver, despite workers' attempts to get the driver's attention. 2 workers were hurt and the driver received minor injuries. The driver pled guilty to reckless endangerment of a roadway worker. Always pay attention to your surroundings while on the job. Working at night can be a bigger hazard than working in the heat, and visibility is greatly reduced at night. Your risk of getting injured or killed increases in the dark. Drivers may be more tired, sleepy, and less attentive. Some hazards and problems are poor visibility, glare off lights, adverse weather conditions, tired drivers, inattentive workers. You can protect yourself when you must work at night by being aware of your surroundings at all times. Get plenty of rest before coming to work. Always be alert. Wearing high visibility apparel, PPE. Setting up proper traffic controls. Knowing the traffic flow plan, pattern. Arranging good work area lighting and making sure all night lighting is properly installed to where the traffic can see you and not. Some more preventable measures you can take as a road worker. As a pedestrian workers, you can keep in eye contact with operators when working near moving equipment, and remember that equipment has blind spots and limited visual areas. As an equipment or vehicle operators, you can keep windows and mirrors clean. Watch for workers on foot, always know where they are. And remember, your equipment has blind spots and that you have limited visual area. These are some ways workers can protect themselves in roadway work zones. Stay behind protective barriers where possible. Do not linger or cross into areas around moving equipment if you have no reason to be there. Be aware where heavy machinery is operating and stay in clear view of operation. Know where blind spots exist for different types of equipment. Never use a cell phone when working around heavy machinery. Instruct all drivers and operators of vehicles to stop work when visual contact has been lost and do not resume until it is re-established. Perform preventive maintenance checks to inspect for equipment defects concerning safety, report problems and follow safe operating practices. Eliminate the need for equipment backups whenever it is practical to do so. Report near misses promptly so they can be investigated and corrective action can be taken immediately. And use extra precautions and additional safety apparel at night and during poor weather. Take a look at this slide so you can get a visual of blind spots or areas. This mapping diagram example shows the blind areas around a Ford F800 dump truck. The yellow area is where the driver can see and the blue is where he cannot see. 8 feet in front and 16 feet in rear are the most hazardous areas. Always remember, the driver's side door area is the only zone within 8 feet of the dump truck that is safely visible. Heavy equipment have blind spots also. Tools or attachments on equipment can create greater blind spots, reduce visibility, or swings that increases the risk to workers being struck or pinned. Watch out for heavy equipment moving with raised buckets. Be ready for possible sudden movements of booms or changes in direction of equipment operation. Know how far can it reach, move or rotate. Know the equipment swing radius. When equipment is lifting objects, watch out for the object because the object that is being lifted creates blind spots and the operator cannot see you on the other side of the object. Equipment operators are at risk of injury every time they run a piece of equipment. Things to do to stay safe while operating equipment is to maintain all equipment in good working condition. Failure of brakes, steering linkages, or power takeoff, PTO, connections can cause injury. PTO, Connections can cause injury or death in seconds. If you are not able to maintain your own equipment, have it inspected periodically by a mechanic. It might save a life, but at the very least, it will likely prevent costly breakdowns. Take training of all equipment procedures for each machine seriously. Make sure you pay attention in training to learn how to operating a machine, know how to engage and disengage moving parts correctly, and that you keep all guards and safety features in place both during and after use. Avoid using equipment in poor working conditions such as low light, low visibility, or when you are too tired to operate equipment safely. Do not operate dangerous machinery when you are taking medications that may impair you, such as allergy or cold medicine, or prescription pain relievers. These often have a warning label, and the warning is there for a reason. Keep people who are not actively assisting the operation of your equipment well away from the activity. Do not let individuals ride on fenders, drawbars, or other attachments not meant for riding on. A sudden fall could result in someone being run over, or a person falling into a cutting attachment, a running PTO shaft, or any other moving mechanical part. Beware the operator can see you, whether he or she is on a piece of equipment. Nothing's worse than you standing where someone who is operating a machine in close proximity to you does not know where you are. Make sure that the operator makes eye contact with you to verify that he or she has indeed noticed you. If this is not possible, move into an area where the operator will see you, either by mirrors or by moving out of their blind spot. If it's not possible, stay away until it's safe to go near. Never climb nor reach over a running, spinning PTO shaft. Always walk around the machine to get to the other side. If you have to work in the area where the PTO shaft is, turn off everything first or ensure that the tractor is out of gear, where the unit where the PTO hooks up is not spinning, before working in that particular area. Always make sure the machine is turned off before you climb in to fix or have a look at something. Check that about to turn on is in the neutral or park position. Also, be aware of what's around you before you turn the machine on or start moving or even operation. When operating machinery, always keep an eye out for things that are beside and behind you, not just on what's in front of you. Do not wear loose clothing or wear your hair loose when working around moving mechanical parts. You will easily get caught up and even sucked up into the machine before you even know what happened. Survivability of such accidents is extremely rare. Most people who survive from such an event often die of traumatic shock shortly after. Always pant legs, sleeves, collars, loose hair, etc., away from a moving machinery part. Wear proper clothing when working around and with machinery. You should never operate machinery or work in tennis shoe or loafers. Safety boots, tight or regular fit work type blue jeans, a shirt and a jacket, as well as gloves and a hat, are the best for working. Never get overconfident that hydraulics will always work and keep in place, because they can and will fail. A loader bucket can suddenly come crashing down on you if such a thing occurs. This will most likely happen if one of the hydraulic rams, or hoses, are worn to the point where they may fail soon, or a hydraulic hose is improperly connected. Machinery is not a toy. Never ever let anyone ride with or hang on the equipment while you operate it. Always watch the power lines, especially with tall equipment. All machinery can conduct electric comes into contact with power lines, resulting in the operator sustaining serious or fatal injuries from electrocution. Sexual harassment is prohibited by SCR Construction Company Incorporated and is against the law. Every employee should be aware of what sexual harassment is, what steps to take if harassment occurs, state law prohibiting retaliation for reporting sexual harassment. You must read the information sheet and new employee package on sexual harassment so you understand the laws and company rules pertaining to sexual harassment. If you have any questions or concerns about it, contact your supervisor, personnel department representative or your investigative officer for further information. Disciplinary Action Plan at SCR Construction Company Incorporated. We take safety very serious here at SCR Construction. We will not tolerate any person or persons ignoring our safety plan or program. If you are caught in any malicious safety violations, you will receive your first and final write-up and will be terminated. Our disciplinary program is as follows: first offense, verbal warning; second offense, written reprimand with additional training; third offense, written warning with punitive layoff; fourth offense, may result in termination. Any violation can be punished with permanent termination without previous offenses. The purpose of this program is to establish a firm but fair disciplinary action policy to enforce the safety of each person at a job site or work location. SCR Construction Company's Right to Know and At Will Policy. SCR Construction Company Incorporated is an at-will company, meaning that the terms of employment may be changed with or without notice, with or without cause, including but not limited to termination, demotion, promotion, transfer, compensation, benefits, duties, and location of work. You are entering into employment with SCR Construction, Incorporated voluntarily, and acknowledge that there is no agreement or contract express or implied between SCR Construction Company, Incorporated and yourself for continuing or long-term employment. While supervisors and managers have certain hiring authority, no supervisor or manager or representative of SCR Construction Company, Incorporated has any authority to alter the at-will relationship. We have the right to terminate you as an employee at any time for violating any rules or regulations, such as conduct policy, attendance policy, safety policy, equipment or company vehicle policy, drug and alcohol policy, or theft of any kind from SCR. It is your right to know of all hazards that you may come into contact with, while working for SCR Construction Company, Incorporated. If you are ever in doubt of something being a hazard to you or your coworkers, always ask to see the SDS sheet, for hazardous chemicals, or safety plan for SCR Construction Company, Incorporated welcomes you and looks forward to a long working relationship together. Thank you for joining a safe place to work, because here at SCR Construction Company safety is always first. Thank you for taking the time to learn what it means to our company to keep all workers, subcontractors, and pedestrians safe while on job site. Before leaving, make sure all paperwork is filled out correctly and signed. Make sure you turn in a copy, front and back, of your driver's license and social security card. If you have any questions, please ask your hiring supervisor before you leave today. Thank you again and best wishes on your new position with SCR Construction Company Inc.